Steve Gamache with a Chef Knives to Go quick look product video on the Shun Premier series 6.5-inch utility knife. This series of knives comes with a core steel of VG10 stainless. It's the same steel they use in their classic series as well. The heat treat rating is about 60 to 61 Rockwell on it. The construction is a stainless multi-layered cladding, which has a Damascus layered pattern to it. You can see that it's a little. These are very highly mirror polished, so it's a little tricky in the lighting here, but there's a good look at it. And you can see the edge steel showing through the cladding line. The face part of the blade has a hammered finish to it to give it some interest and texture to the blade, as well as maybe contribute a little bit to the non-stick properties of the blade. The weight of this knife is about 3 ounces, and the blade length's it's a little under 6.5, but 160 millimeters, and so it's a little over like a 150 petty. The overall length about 10.8, and the spine at the base on this knife, it's pretty thin at about 1.6 inches. It holds that most of the way through until you hit near the tip where you get to the grind of the knife, which starts about right here on this blade. You can see it right there where it hits the face and starts in the grind down to the edge and tapers all the way down. So you get a taper, distal taper towards the tip right here. The heel height of this particular knife is about 32 millimeters. So you might consider this kind of a slightly short, oversized petty, as well as maybe a general utility knife. The handle is their oval packwood handle with a little imprint on the cap and butt cap there at the end. And it's got a bulge in the middle for ergonomics and a little bit smaller ferrule than do the classic handles. The balance point on this knife is about back here because of the lightness of the blade itself. The blade's pretty thin and it's fairly flexible. These are pretty darn flexible at the tip. I was a little surprised how thin they are at the tip, and I don't know if you can see me moving that, but these are really flexible at the tip. This particular knife is the only sample out of like the 20-something he sent me that has any kind of anomalies on it at all. So I think it's definitely just a one-off problem with this particular blade, but you can kind of see the tip here is bent a little bit, or should say kind of curved or not ground evenly, and it's got a little bit of a bend or curve to it. Also, if we look at the profile of the knife, it's got a real cool profile, but there's also, on this particular sample, a bit of an undergrind right here. You can see it kind of gets a little wavy, and I saw that definitely on the cutting board. I would not let that deter you from this type of knife. Just ask Mark to pick a clean sample for you. But just be aware, between the Classic Series utility and the Premier Series utility, these blades are a bit thinner. They're more aggressively thinned out towards the edge, and this particular one has a bit of an anomaly towards the tip as a result of that. But generally speaking, very, very sharp, extremely thin at the edge, so great performers. Nicely cut edge bevel, could use a little bit of tooth in my opinion, but that's easy to put on there. And just a really nice looking, nicely executed knife. So there you have the Shun Premier 6.5-inch utility knife. Steve Gamache with a Chef Knives to Go quick look product video on the Shun Premier series 6.5-inch utility knife. This series of knives comes with a core steel of VG10 stainless. It's the same steel they use in their classic series as well. The heat treat rating is about 60